Hello everyone, good morning. So, as a part of our Indian polity session, today we are going to discuss about the most important significant topic and one of the favorite area of our UPSC, and that is nothing but our preamble of Indian Constitution. So, for preliminary level preamble, we need to have an idea of each and every word which was written, which was incorporated in our preamble, and regarding mains level, the features, significance, and amendments related to the preamble. So, firstly, I would like to read it out so that it will be very easy to understand where we are going to discuss about the preamble itself. Why I am reading out in the sense in my second interview under Birender Singh sir board. So that panel asked me to read the preamble. Not only that, even it is very important to remember each and every line, including the meaning and significance, because preamble every time in our news it is coming with different uh, analysis which is required for our examination point of view. So here comes the Constitution of India preamble. We, the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, and to secure all its citizens justice, social, economic, and political, liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith, and worship, equality of status and of opportunity, and to promote them among them all, the fraternity assuring the dignity of the individual and the unity and integrity of the nation. In our Constitution Assembly, this 26th day of November 1949, do hereby adopt, enact, and give to ourselves this Constitution. See, our preamble is a solid political theory and it is a huge constitutional wisdom with literal poetry, my friends. So please do remember from we the people to the last words ourselves this constitution. So there comes the question, what is preamble? What is the significance of preamble? Is it really required for a constitution to have a preamble? So let us understand all these. See here, focus on these words which we are going to discuss a bit later, but here please do concentrate. We the people of India. So this itself can be seen as the source for authority. So we the people of India, and try to connect that to this, hereby adopt, enact, and give to ourselves this constitution. So we the people of India, we ourselves are adopting, we ourselves are enacting, and we ourselves are giving to us that so-called constitution. So how would be this constitution look like? So in a single sentence, if you want to say about our Indian constitution, then you should have an idea to understand about this preamble. So here comes the word sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic, and republic. So this triple SDR is the most important significance how our constitution is going to look. For what? To provide the justice. Justice of what? Justice of socio-economic and political. How come that justice can be given? By giving that freedom, that liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith, and worship. How come it can be possible? Through equality of status and of opportunity. So that what will happen? So that we can promote among our Indians the brotherhoodness, fraternity, which can assure the dignity of an individual, so that oneness, the concept of oneness, the concept of nationalism, let me say the integrity of the nation can be achieved. And that is what we adopted, enacted, and give to ourselves in this Constitution of India on the 26th day of November 1949. So simply saying, this is what the point is. So if you do understand this preamble as a whole, 80% of our constitution we can come across. So as I said that our preamble is a solid political theory and it is a constitutional wisdom. There comes the question, what is preamble? So what is preamble? See here, the preamble of the Constitution of India is a brief introductory statement which sets out the guidelines which guide the people of the nation to present the principles of the Constitution and to indicate the source from which the document derives its authority and meaning. So from where the authority of our Constitution came from, that is nothing but the source for authority is our preamble. So what do you mean by preamble? It is nothing but a set of guidelines. So please keep this point in your mind. Means this, the hopes and aspirations of the people are described in it. Very, very important. The hopes and aspirations of the people of India, nothing but our Indians, were described in it. So the preamble can be referred to as the preface which highlights the entire constitution. We can also say that as it is a brief introductory statement which sets out the guiding purpose principles, we can easily say that this preamble is the philosophy. The preamble is the philosophy of our constitution. So preamble thus gives an idea about four major things. What is that? It is talking about the source of the Indian Constitution, the nature of the Indian state or the government, its objectives, the constitutional objectives, aims of the Constitution, aims of the people, aspirations of the people, and finally the day of its adoption. So here these are the four major things which gives a clear-cut idea which was drawn from the preamble itself. So here comes preamble gives an idea about which among the following, which can be the most basic question in our preliminary examination. So it gives an idea about four major things: the source of the constitution, nothing but people of India, we can discuss it later, nature of Indian state, objectives, and the date of its adoption. And here comes the question. What is that question? Sir, why preamble was written? What is the source to write this preamble? What is that motivation? From where we get that inspiration to write the preamble? So if this comes into picture, then obviously we need to recollect a small story which was in the mid 1700s, let me say 1750s in and around, as a part of American Revolution, a great theory which was evolved by that time, which is called autochthony. Autochthony. What do you mean by autochthony? So here comes autochthony literally means I will not be ruled by a foreign state. I will be ruled by my own soil. I will be ruled by myself. I will be ruled by the indigenous people or the locals. So this is what exactly this so-called autochthony is talking about. So this is why which can be seen, autochthony is a concept which was raised as a part of your American Revolution. So there they adopted their own constitution, American Constitution, and before that they also adopted their own preamble. And hence, what is the source from where we got that inspiration to write our preamble? So the concept of oneness, we. So we is nothing but we are all one. That is what autochthony. We are no more going to be ruled by the foreign states. We are going to be ruled by ourselves. So that is what the concept of autochthony as a part of American Revolution came out. So why preamble was written? What is the source? And obviously the preamble source motivation we got from is our USA. So here in the USA, we the people of the United States, and that is what exactly replicates even in our preamble of Indian Constitution. So we inspired from USA to develop that nationality feeling among Indians. And hence, preamble is a declaration that we Indians will be ruled by ourselves. And hence for the basic question for UPSC prelims, the concept of preamble is adopted from USA. So the constitution drafters, which also includes the great Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, who also motivated and inspired to draft or to write this preamble, is from USA. You need to keep this point at any cost. So this is what exactly why preamble was written, in the sense to get that inspiration regarding the concept of oneness, nationality, integrity. So here comes. So basically our preamble discussions etc taken in a small form. So let us discuss about that. So at the time when Constitution Assembly was formed in the year 1946, we Indians, inspired from three major revolutions, which are nothing but your American Revolution, French Revolution and Russian Revolution. So based on that, Objectives Resolution was introduced by Jawaharlal Nehru, JL Nehru. JL Nehru, very, very important points to remember. On December 13, 1946. 1946. And this was adopted on Jan 22nd, 1947. So Objectives Resolution is nothing but what? So there is a question how we need to get our constitution to be drafted, how our constitution should look like, what are the aspirations of our Indians. So all these came into picture. So there should be some thought, right? And that manifestation of thoughts put together is nothing but your Objectives Resolution. Based on that, what came into picture? Preamble and finally our Indian Constitution, which are having the significance. Both are having the significance. So this Objectives Resolution was introduced by JL Nehru in Constitution Assembly, and the dates are very important: December 13, 1946, and it was adopted by the Constitution Assembly on January 22nd, 1947. And finally October 17th, and this date is not that much important, but keep this in your mind, October 17, 1949, the Constituent Assembly presided by Rajendra Prasad took up this preamble for discussion. So preamble introduced in the Constituent Assembly to discuss. So this is what the core area is. So we inspired from three major revolutions, American, French and Russian. Objectives Resolution, we nothing but the manifestation of the thoughts how our constitution should look like, and based on that preamble was made, and that preamble got its importance to discuss in the Constituent Assembly on October 17, 1949. Now let's go word by word of the preamble. The first is, we the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India and so on, hereby adopt, enact and give to ourselves this constitution. So we the people means the concept of autochthony itself, nothing but ruled by indigenous. Autochthony is nothing but what? Ruled by the locals or ruled by our own soil. So this is what the concept which inspired. So 9th December 1946. 9th December 1946. See, even though we are going to discuss about the word we the people of India, we the people of India, nothing but our India is not at all given that independence by the time of 1946. Then there comes a question. By the time 9th December 1946, when Constituent Assembly was formed, we the people, nothing but Indians, are not independent and still under the British Raj. So for the preliminary question, who gave the power to the Constituent Assembly to draft the constitution? Who gave that legal sanction, that permission, that grant for the Constituent Assembly to discuss about this? And you need to keep a point in your mind that this Constituent Assembly is not a directed one. Through indirect elections it was formed, not through direct elections. So as it is an indirectly elected body, then who gave that power for this Constituent Assembly, then obviously your answer is second cabinet mission. Second cabinet mission. So who gave that grant, who gave that legal sanction to discuss about this, to have that word we the people of India? Second cabinet mission 1946. See, Indian Independence Act 1947 just gave India the dominion status, not independence. Keep this point. So India got independence in the sense, even though we are referring that the status of republic was not given to India. The status of republic was given to India right from 26th Jan 1950. Till then, we are still under the British Raj. Or at least we can say that there are two major laws till 26th Jan 1950. One is your Government of India Act 1935 and second one is Indian Independence Act 1947. Under these two laws, India is being governed. So till 1950 Jan 26th, we had these two laws, and hence Indian Constitution enforced from 26th Jan 1950. Hence 1950 Jan 26th onwards, the source for authority is the people of India. So here comes the point to remember, what is the source for authority in India? What is the source for authority of our constitution? Is nothing but the people of India. So here the word we the people of India is talking about what? The source for authority. The source for authority in India is the people of India, and that is why we adopted this so-called preamble on 26 November 1949 by the Constituent Assembly and came into effect on 26th Jan 1950, which we are celebrating as the Republic Day in India. So we the people of India, what we need to remember in the sense, the source for authority is the people. So who are having utmost power in India? The people. And then comes the second word here, sovereign. So what do you mean by sovereign? See, the preamble proclaims the India as a sovereign state. Sovereign or sovereignty means that India has its own independent authority, and it is not a dominion or independent state of any other external powers. We are no more depending on anyone. The legislature of India has the powers to enact in the country subject to certain limitations imposed by the constitution. Means under the supremacy of the constitution, that so-called legislatures of India, let me say the parliament at the center or the state legislatures, are having that power to make laws, and according to that law, subjected to that laws, we are going to empower ourselves. So we can also say sovereignty is nothing but external independence plus internal supremacy. External independence plus internal supremacy. So keep this point in your mind. Means our foreign policy is not regulated and it cannot be influenced by any foreign power. India can be seen as a member of the Commonwealth, can be seen as a member of UNO, can be seen as a member of SAARC or BRICS or something like that, international organizations, but that so-called countries cannot influence the foreign policy of India. We by ourselves can take our own decision. Let me say, sovereignty can be seen in two types. One is external sovereignty. Second one is internal sovereignty. External sovereignty, we are going to make our own laws according to the will and wish of the people of our India, according to the will and wish along with the aspirations of the people of our India, according to the demands of the society of our India. No more any other country can show their influence of our India. So our laws are going to be made by ourselves itself. Likewise, internal sovereignty. Internal sovereignty can be seen at the time of elections. Even to our life partner, no need to say to whom you are going to vote. We can maintain that fair play of elections, secrecy in the elections. So that is what individual decision making power, the highest decision making power rests with our India itself. No foreign country can make us to do according to their will and wish. We are free to say, to make our own laws, to enforce, to implement our own laws. And that is what sovereignty means. So preamble is proclaiming that India is a sovereign country. So keep this point in your mind. And then comes the next most important word, socialist. So socialism can be seen as an economic philosophy where means of production and distribution are owned by the state, and India adopted that mixed economy where apart from the state there will be a private production too. So socialism as a social philosophy stresses more on societal equality. So this is what the basic lines which were mentioned as a definition or the meaning for the word socialism right from the year 1976 as a part of Indira Gandhi government itself. But here we need to understand what type of socialism we are having. So here when the word socialism is coming into picture by the time which then incorporated in our preamble, socialism is the only word in a global aspect which replicates the Marxist philosophies. Nothing but socialism is the term which you, if you want to term it, if you want to give that, Marxist socialism is the literal definition adopted by the global countries. So what do you mean by Marxist socialism? Marxist socialism is saying that all the resources are distributed equally among the people and all the resources are completely controlled by the state. Equal distribution as well as complete control by the state. So this is what the Marxist socialism is talking about. It means if we do have this Marxist socialism in India, then obviously me and Ambani are having the same. Me and Ambani is the same in respect, in terms of property, in terms of luxury, in terms of everything. But it is not in the reality. Means what? Marxist socialism, equal distribution is not at all possible. But instead of that, what type of socialism we are having? We are having Gandhian socialism. Gandhian socialism. Gandhian socialism focus on what? Gandhian socialism focus on the equality of status and opportunity. So equality in our preamble represents the status and opportunity. So here it is going to give you that equal status and opportunity to all the citizens of our India, but not equal distribution here. Natural resources are to be equally distributed among the people of India. Nothing but welfare. If once the socialism coming into picture, the welfare of the state is giving to be the priority. So India has its own brand of socialism, which we term it as Gandhian socialism. Ambedkar not used the term socialism. Keep this point in your word, but he described that. So the word socialist was amended, was added to the preamble by the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act in 1976 under this Indira Gandhi government. So 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act 1976. Keep this in your point because there are three words which were added in our preamble through this 42nd. One is your socialist, second one is your secular, and third one is your integrity. So these are the three most important words which were added through this 42nd Amendment Act 1976 under Indira Gandhi government. So here it can be seen the word socialism or secularism over the preamble can be seen as the political statements only. It is not having any constitutional significance. See, socialism means the achievement of socialist ends through democratic means. So we can say in a simple way that India has adopted Gandhian socialism, which further also called as democratic socialism. Democratic socialism holds the faith as a mixture of the participation of both public and private entities. And that is why we call our economy as mixed economy, where both public and private sectors coexist side by side. And the most important aim and objective of this democratic socialism is to end poverty, ignorance, disease, and inequality of the opportunity. It Through this so-called concept of socialism, we are trying to eradicate the differences between the rich and poor. Through this concept of socialism, with the significance giving priority to the welfare, abolition of Jamindari system took place, land reforms were enforced, welfare of the state is given the priority. So what type of socialism in India we are having? We don't have Marxist socialism. We are having Gandhian socialism, which is a unique brand of our India. So Indian socialism is a Gandhian socialism, also called democratic socialism, which strives very hard to eradicate the differences between the rich and poor by giving the equal status and opportunity, but not equal distribution of natural resources to the people. Only the state is not going to control the natural resources. Both private and public entities are going in a hand-in-hand nature. So this is what socialism is talking about. And then comes secular. So secular. So here secularism, the Western definition is somewhat different. What exactly secularism, the Western definition is saying that the state and the religion are completely having the diverse factors. In other words, we can say the state shall not interfere into the religious affairs and the religion shall not interfere into the state affairs. So Western thought or Western philosophical understanding here comes, but the same is not in our India. So secularism definition in the Western context is different to the Indian context. Why? In the sense, the Western context is saying that that the secularism is nothing but, literally I can translate, Panth Nirpekshita. So Western philosophy here, what it is saying, Panth Nirpekshita, means nowhere the state can involve into the religious affairs, whereas even the religion cannot interfere into the state affairs. So here you need to understand, in India, let us take an example to understand here further a bit. So in India there are some issues which are revolving around the matters related to this Sabarimala issue and all, where the states are very much concerned. Even the judiciary is also giving its own judgment verdicts according to the demands of the people in our society. Keep all these aside. So here state is interfering into the religious affairs. So here what we are having, in the sense, in India the state is watchfully ambivalent. In India, the state is watchfully ambivalent. In the sense, we are following Gandhian secularism, which means Sarva Dharma Sambhav. Sarva Dharma Sambhav. So, which is exactly a contrary to your Panth Nirpekshita. The Western secularism definition is different from the Indian secularism. So, Ambedkar, keeping all these in the point, the great legend, not used the term in the preamble, but he explained it through the word called liberty. Liberty of thought and expression, belief, faith and worship. So he mentioned belief, faith and worship in the Indian preamble. That freedom was given to our Indians. Hence, again secularism can be seen as a political term. So no religious interference in state affairs, no official religion to the state, no official religion to the government, and government shall give equal priority and equal representation to all the religions of the country, and no religious preachings are entertained in government or government aided educational institutions. So the features of this secularism was clearly mentioned. The interpretation, the understanding of the preamble as a part of the features of secularism was given by the Supreme Court in S.R. Bommai and others versus Union of India. So in this case, the features of secularism was clearly mentioned by the Supreme Court, saying that liberty of thought and expression, keep that aside, belief, faith and worship, nothing but every citizen of India was entitled to give that equal importance according to the will and wish of the individual. That freedom of conscience and right freely to profess, practice, propagate the religion of their choice, it was left to the citizens of India itself. So this is what the point here talks about, secularism. So in India we are having Gandhian secularism, we can say. And then comes the word democracy. So here we need to understand demos plus kratia, nothing but people. This is ruling, people ruling means people are the highest power. But basically, if you do understand, there is a famous definition which was given by Abraham Lincoln, the government to the people, by the people and for the people. So here you need to keep that definition in mind. So there will be a government to the people, by the people and for the people. So here, which indicates that the form of government as the authority from the will and wish of the people itself. So government is going to form according to the will and wish of the people itself. And the rulers, let me say the representatives, are going to be elected by the people itself in a country. That is what democracy means. But basically, how can be possible? So here comes fair elections, regular elections, and free elections. So free and fair and regular elections. So there is no particular definition for the democracy. Just now you have said that Abraham Lincoln said the basic, the definition for the democracy, and now again I am saying there is no particular definition. Why? In the sense, see the word FFR, nothing but you are free, fair and regular. If you go to China, the communist country, they are following the same. There are free elections, fair elections and regular elections there, and they are calling it as democracy. And if you go to the African countries where military regimes are having somewhat priority there, so they are also saying the same. Here also we are having free, fair and regular elections. Having a gun in the hand, they use it to maintain that. They are also saying that it is democracy. So here comes the point you need to understand, my dear friends. Democracy means forming the government according to the will and wish of the people through free, fair and regular elections. But the government thus formed based on these free, fair and regular elections should be accountable to the people. So if you go to China, the government is not accountable to the people. If you go to the military regimes of your African countries, they are not accountable to the people. But in India, the government is accountable to the people. So the government functions with the consent of the people itself. The government is responsible, the government is answerable, the government is accountable to the people. And that is how democracy in India we can have. And finally, the word republic came into picture. So the democratic republic is that word you need to keep in mind, which can be seen as an entity where the head of the state is elected directly or indirectly for a particular period of time. So here republic can be seen as an opposite word, let me say an opposed theory to the monarchy. So for the monarchy, it is completely against to that. Where in monarchy, the head of the state is appointed on the hereditary basis for a lifetime or until he abdicates from the throne. But whereas in democratic republic, the entity, nothing but the head of the state, will be elected either directly or indirectly. That is of different story. And that too for a particular period of time. A fixed tenure will be given. For your understanding, the President of India, who is nothing but the head of the Indian state, elected by an electoral college, it's an indirect election for a particular period of 5 years. And it is not hereditary, nothing but what every citizen of India with some conditions, let me say regarding age, etc., etc. So with some conditions, he can go and participate in the elections, eligible to become the president of our country. So no one is going to stop that. And hence we can say that in India we have democratic republic. See, what exactly do we mean by this democratic republic? In the sense, all the public offices, let me say all the government offices are open to everyone. Previously there is a theory called Rex Lex. Nothing but the king is the law. Means on the law there is a supreme power called king. But later on it was changed to Lex Rex. Nothing but the law is the supreme. And what do you mean by constitution? The supreme law of the land. So in India, that so-called president, even though he is the head of the state, the first citizen of India, should bind to the constitution of India, to our law itself. So republic is showing the supremacy of the constitution, where even president of India shall also bind to that. All the limits can be set over the word democracy. So the limitations of the democracy can be set over by the word called republic in nature. So republic is talking about the supremacy of the constitution. So here friends, you need to remember, again I am recollecting that original Indian constitution preamble doesn't have these words socialist, secular and integrity. But later on, through 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act 1976, these three words, socialist, secular and integrity of the nation, was incorporated, was placed, added as the words of the preamble. Keep this point in your mind. And hence, now we are going to discuss about the objectives of the Indian state. This is what exactly the points were. So justice, social, economic and political, which we adopted from the, inspired from the Russian constitution or Russian revolution, we can say. Equality of status and the opportunity, French revolution. Liberty of thought expression, belief, faith and worship, that is what we talk about secularism. So Ambedkar not used the word secularism or secular, but he described in this means, which also inspired from French Revolution. And finally, the brotherhoodness, nothing but the fraternity, assuring the dignity and individual of the unity and integrity. As I said, integrity was added through 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act 1976 under Indira Gandhi. So that is what also inspired from that. So here you need to keep a point in your mind. These are the objectives. And liberty means, see, according to Montesquieu, a French legal philosopher, let me say a great philosopher of the French, Montesquieu, liberty means freedom to do anything that which the law allows. So liberty means what? A freedom to do anything what exactly the law of that country allows. So you are supposed to enjoy your freedom, what our constitution is supposed to give to the citizens. That is what the great point you need to remember. And you need to remember in that only order: justice, equality, liberty and fraternity. So one fine day, as a part of our discussions in the Constituent Assembly, one fellow asked to B.R. Ambedkar, "My dear Ambedkar, I know that you have greatly motivated from French Revolution. Then why you have placed justice as the first word, and beneath that equality, liberty and fraternity? Why in this chronological order? Why in this chronological order? Justice, equality, liberty and fraternity. Why this order you maintained?" So Ambedkar said, "Yes, I am inspired, greatly motivated from French Revolution, but not only through the French Revolution, but with all other revolutions as well. And I strongly believe that justice is the pinnacle of the state's requirements. Nothing but justice is the highest aim and objective of the state." So from this it is very clear, the first important aim which can fulfill the aspirations of Indians is to provide justice of social, economic and political. And that is why justice was placed above equality, liberty and fraternity. And finally, date of its adoption. So the date of the adoption of our preamble is 26th November 1949, and all the provisions of the constitution, most of the provisions, let me say maximum provisions, let me say 80%, enforced on 26th day of January 1950, nothing but your Republic Day, where we can say that India is republic country. No more we are under the rule or under the laws of the foreigners. So here the word enforce is great word to remember under the word republic here. So most of the articles in the constitution came in the force, I mean came under implementation on January 26, 1950. But these articles came into existence on 26 November 1949. So these were all mentioned under 394 article. I am not going deep into that. But there is a point to recollect here, that there is a significance why we are celebrating this Republic Day or enforcing our constitution on this 26th January itself. There is a purpose, because on this day 1930, see Jan 26, 1930, Purna Swaraj Day we can mention. Purna Swaraj is a proclamation by the Indian National Congress as a part of Lahore session on the banks of Ravi River. So in order to commemorate that day, Purna Swaraj Day of 1930, we enforced our constitution on January 26, 1950. Jan 26. Why? In the sense, that is what the historical significance related to that. And finally, is preamble can be amended. So here comes the point. There are two most important cases related to this preamble. One is your Beruberi case. Second one is your Keshwananda Bharati's case. So before that, just have a glance here. Keep these points in your mind. These are what we just totally discussed. So the Beruberi Union case 1960, and keep a point in your mind, friends. Beruberi is not a case actually. It can be seen as a presidential reference. Presidential reference according to Article 143. So here the then President Rajendra Prasad asked the Supreme Court regarding this issue. So what is this issue? So according to Boundary Commission, what is that? Boundary Commission, which was headed by Ratcliffe. Sir Ratcliffe. You might know about that Ratcliffe line which was drawn, which divides India and Pakistan. So Beruberi, unfortunately, by the time of that was not mentioned. And unfortunately, it was in India by the time of the dominion status which was given to both India and Pakistan, which literally to be the part of Pakistan. So Beruberi is a region which should be the part of Pakistan, but literally now it can be seen as a part of our India. So in 1952, Pakistan officially started its protest demanding to get back their Beruberi region. So they officially started. So based on that, in 1958, Nehru-Noon Agreement came into picture. 1958 Nehru-Noon Agreement. What is this Nehru-Noon Agreement? Nothing but Jawaharlal Nehru and Feroz Khan Noon, the respective prime ministers of India and Pakistan respectively. So there came a small agreement between these two prime ministers of India and Pakistan, and Nehruji said that yes, don't worry, take your Beruberi region to Pakistan itself. But there comes a big question: does the Constitution of India allows the Parliament to give away the territories? So Article 2 is mentions about to make territories and can be seen as the power of the Parliament. But Article 2 is not talking about to give away the territories, which can be seen as the power of the Parliament. So there the question rises, the Constitution empowered the Parliament to give away the territories? A big question mark rises. So Rajendra Prasad, the then President, asked the Supreme Court. That is why I said it can be seen as a presidential reference. If at all Beruberi is given away, can we take the power from the word democracy from the preamble and use it as a part of Constitution? Simply saying, is preamble a part of Constitution of India? So in Beruberi case 1960, as a part of presidential reference, the Supreme Court held the view, and a 7-bench panel, constitutional bench was formed, and they said preamble cannot be the part of Indian Constitution. So what is the Supreme Court judgment there? Preamble is not a part of Indian Constitution. Preamble is the summary. It is not a part of Constitution. Preamble is different, Indian Constitution is different. But it was not taken by the Parliament, and they made a 9th Constitutional Amendment Act 1960, and they give away that Beriberi to Pakistan. And then that so-called 9th Constitutional Amendment Act 1960 was challenged in the Supreme Court, and again Supreme Court clearly mentioned that preamble is the summary of the Indian Constitution and it is not the part of Constitution, and hence Parliament is not having that power to give away the territories according to Article 2. So as a part of that, again Beriberi can be seen as a part of our India. So here you need to remember, in this Beriberi region, that so-called bench, B. Sinha, A. Shah, K. Das Gupta, K. S. Rao, Hidayatullah, Gajendra Gatkar and S. Das. So this constitutional bench clearly gave that verdict saying that preamble is not a part of Indian Constitution. So which among the following cases said that? Supreme Court said that preamble was not a part of Indian Constitution, and hence your answer is Beriberi Union Case 1960. And then comes the Keshwananda Bharati case, which is nothing but a complete contrary to the previous case. So Keshwananda Bharati case versus State of Kerala under Chandrachud, a 13 bench, very important, the biggest constitutional bench of Supreme Court formed till date is your Keshwananda Bharati. So 24th April 1973 here, and here comes the Keshwananda Bharati's case as a part of this preamble. Supreme Court clearly said preamble is an integral part of Indian Constitution. Means what? It overruled the previous Supreme Court judgment of Beriberi case, and it also clearly said that preamble is a part of Constitution and can be amended under Article 368. According to Article 368, it can be amended, means with special majority. Likewise, in another case called LIC of India, in this case also even Supreme Court said that preamble is a part of Indian Constitution itself. So two cases which are supporting to say that preamble is a part of our Indian Constitution. One is your Keshwananda Bharati case, second one is your LIC of India case. So these are the three most important cases related to your preamble. So the features of the preamble, here comes the features of the preamble as the non-justiciable in nature, and it can be amendable, and till date it was amended only once through 42nd Amendment Act, where three most important words, socialist, secular and integrity, was added to the preamble of our Indian Constitution. And you need to keep a point that it can be seen as a part of our Indian Constitution itself. And now let's discuss about the previous questions, and I hope I am clear with the concept of your preamble of our Indian Constitution. Whereas I am not touched the mains and the current affairs related topics here, but let us have an idea that the previous questions asked related to this preamble now. Which of the following emerges clearly from the preamble? So from that it is very clear. The answer is date of adoption, yes. We are having ideas that have to be achieved, yes. The aspirations, yes. Nature of the Indian state, yes. The source of authority of the Constitution, yes. The people are the source of the authority, and hence all the above is the answer. Which is the correct sequence of following words in the preamble? And this is very important, many times asked in your preliminary and many other competitive examinations. So here SSDR is the word you need to remember. Sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic and republic. Sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic and republic. B is the answer here. And then comes which cases emphasized that preamble is a part of Constitution of our India. So Keshwananda Bharati case and LIC case is correct. Beriberi case is a contrary. Beriberi case, it is not saying that preamble is a part, it is saying that preamble is not a part of Indian Constitution, and hence 4 is not there, and your answer is B. Which of the following word has not been written in the preamble of the Indian Constitution? See, sovereign correct, socialist correct, democratic correct, Indians no. We the people of India we are having, but there is no word called Indians, and that is what the answer is. And then comes which statement is not correct in the case of sovereign India. So sovereign India, just go through the points there. India is not dependent on any other country. Yes, sovereignty. India is not a colony of any other country. Yes, complete independence. India can give any part of the country to any other country. Yes, it is also correct. It is an absolutely the parliament through by law can be seen, and India is obliged to obey the UN in its internal affairs. No, India is not obeying or accepting the UN to interfere in our internal affairs, and hence D is the answer here. And then comes what is the true meaning of secular. As I said, all religions are given equal priority by the government. A is correct. Special importance to religion related to minorities, no. One religion is promoted by the government, no. None of the following, and hence your answer is A. And then comes what is the meaning of social equality in the Indian constitution, and it is 2007 or 8 preliminary question. And here comes equal opportunities for all sections of the societies. So equality of status and opportunity, which was clearly written in our preamble, you need to recollect that. And then comes which of the following statements is not true. Beruberi case, Supreme Court said that preamble of the constitution is not a part, correct. Keshwananda Bharati case, so preamble is a part, correct. Preamble of the constitution has been taken from the constitution of Canada, no, it was taken from USA. That is what we need to say thanks to USA here, and C is the answer there. And then comes preamble is important due to which reasons. Preamble contains the essence of the constitution, its values and goals, correct. It has the basic features of the constitution, it is also correct. It has, if there is any lack of clarity in the constitution, judiciary turns to the preamble into the interpretation of the relevant provision. Yes, the philosophy of the constitution can be seen as the summary points of our preamble itself, and hence it is also. And microcosm of the constitution, yes, the micro level understanding, the minute understanding of the constitution can be seen as a replication of the preamble, all the above. And then comes the Constituent Assembly adopted the constitution on, and hence the 26th day of November 1949. So here we need to recollect all these points, my dear friends, and here the homework for you. Please do give the answers for these questions. Consider the following: socialist, democratic, sovereign and secular. In which order these were placed in our preamble? So please do reply with your answer. And what represents thought, expression, belief, faith and worship? What exactly of these options in the preamble is mentioning about this thought, expression, belief, faith and worship? So this is all about the preamble, the concept and the previous questions which we have discussed. And here comes the total concept, which is very much relevant as a UPSC favorite area. So my dear friends, please do understand each and every word, literal meaning of the word of our Indian preamble itself. And this is all in this video. Thank you very much. So thank you very much. Stay safe, stay home.